Welcome to the Monday, June 1st, 2020 meeting of the Dennis-Yarmouth Regional School Committee. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Everyone is reminded that you can join this meeting via Zoom with the meeting code that is on the agenda, which is posted, or you can view us via live stream from the link on the school committee page of the DY website. It's called DYRSD YouTube Live. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed. All right. I think, just take me a second here to get back to my screen. Our first order of business is a report from Joe Tierney, update on the school building project, please.
Thank you, Jenny. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have much of an update right now. Basically, I know the subcommittee groups have been working on different things. So I know I know Carol and Ken might have a little update for that. We do have our next meeting on Thursday at 4:30, which will also be a Zoom meeting. And we'll make sure people know about that. So Ken and Carol, I don't know if you have anything as far as subcommittees updates or anything.
Go ahead, Ken, I'll let you go first.
Invitations went out to the people who are on the various subcommittees, such as, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and the specialist in different facilities. So those went out to individual committee members who might be on that, like the interior committee or the exterior committee. And those pieces, there's probably about 8 meetings in the next 3 weeks for a variety of those topics. Those went out. I will double check the receipt list tomorrow just to be sure they went to everybody who they should have gone to. But right now it's mostly the final but final details so they can finish the next phase of the plans.
Yeah, that's it. There's all those little subcommittees that are meeting about each individual thing: solar, mechanical engineering, plumbing, security, those kinds of things. So there's a ton of meetings coming up. So there'll be a lot of things to probably by the end of June, maybe, or beginning sometime in July. There'll probably be a lot more to discuss on that front.
Okay, thank you. Next is the Assistant Superintendent's report, please.
Yes. Well, good evening. It seems so long ago that in May, Mr. Carey and I were at the Dennis Finance Committee meeting, and we went through the entire 200-page budget over an extended period of time. So there was a great deal of time for questions. We tried to take some notes on some of the primary points of concern. And as you'll note in the memo, there were 3 sort of larger issue questions that they asked for more information on. And certainly that was provided. Pretty much what you see in the memo there was sent to the town of Dennis. But also clearly, if we're going to send that kind of information to an outside group, it needs, by must, comes to the committee. And just wanted some input, wanted to make the committee aware of these were the questions we were asked. And it was implied that that had an impact upon whether the finance committee could support the school budget or not, if they had the information available, and what was some of the thinking behind it. And so tried to keep it brief. There are 3 primary issues the finance committee had some questions about. The first one was a Title I position. It was double listed. You don't double list those positions. And that was the $85,127 listed. In balancing that, as you can see in the memo, what we've been seeing is a decline most years of at least $70,000, if not more, The average decline in Title I has been $73,000. And by all accounts, we anticipate reductions again this year because everybody is being advised by all the different groups. We all know revenue is down. There will be some reductions coming people's way, towns, municipalities, schools, etc. And so on the one hand, certainly not my place to say we should correct that kind of double listing in the budget and reduce assessments. That would require the committee to vote. On the other hand, I wanted to make the issue, just put the issue out there for the committee. That did indeed happen. There was that double listing, and that would be the impact. In theory, the staff member who is budgeted, not in theory, the staff member who's budgeted for $85,127 would still remain in the budget, but the double listing would be removed from the budget. And that would lower the assessment slightly, a certain percentage for Dennis and a percentage for Yarmouth. And that's if the committee chose to do that. The other issue is the committee could say we should leave that in there because we know we're going to see reductions, and we know Title I provides support to some of our most vulnerable students. And certainly since we left on March 13th, we know there's been some gaps for many of our students. But as a practical reality, something the committee has to wrestle with. The second question from the 12th was really about a district salary reserve. It's something the district has done for multiple years. It's the amount of $60,000. And as just about everybody on the board's familiar with, placements can be required in the middle of a year based on special circumstances, a student's IEP, someone moving into a district, someone's condition changing. And the district has tried over the years to have a slight reserve to cover some of those costs, because in general, the least expensive day program is around $45,000 to $50,000. It's not unusual on occasion to have to do something significantly more expensive. And when that happens and we're scrambling to look at other programs to reduce them mid-year because suddenly there's that need in January, I think it's important that we consider that district salary reserve as a useful tool for dealing with our students who we can get a surprise expense, and it has to be taken care of. And as of this point, the account that we use to address some of those conditions this year is over budget at this point in time. We'll finish the year and we'll be fine. It's manageable, but it's an example of something that I can't think of a year where it has not happened, that we've had that kind of unexpected special needs request during the year. And the third question was about the HVAC contracted services line, and not to be redundant, it's in the memo. You can see it represented a substantial $40,000 increase, but it's reflecting the reality of what it costs for our HVAC system. Heating, ventilation, the univents, the heating systems in the various schools. I noted there that there's been approximately $18,000 we had to spend on special HVAC specialized repairs, if you will, at Baker, and $7,000 at Wixon in 1 year. And so that actual increase reflects some of the actual costs. And those were the three larger category areas. I know Mr. Carey was certainly there and answered quite a few questions and made some presented some info too. But I think those were the three issues that the Finance Committee asked about. And I just wanted to make sure the committee was aware of their concerns about those three areas.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Brian Carey, please.
Hey, Jen, thank you very much. Thank you, Ken. And one couple of points I'd like to make is Ken and I were there, and Carol participated by Zoom and helped out as well in some of the presentation. It was well over 2 hours. at Dennis Town Hall. Ken and I were there physically. Most of the finance committee was there in the room. I think one or two participated by Zoom. And in many ways, it was an educational piece where we were walking them through our code numbers and what was one school and what was another school, and how come language arts was in one bundle and not spread out throughout the district. It really was an educational process. And at the same time, there was, some items that were brought up. The biggest of all, I think, is what Ken has already alluded to, is the double listing. What makes that a little bit more complicated is that it's a Title I teacher. And in past years, we might have had a parentheses around that salary where it was written off by a grant. And what Ken is referring to, and one of the finance committee members thinks it's a double mistake, and is that not only was it double listed, but we should be getting the credit because it's a grant. And I'm just trying to explain this for not just Ken's point of view, my point of view, because we've been living with this for the past few days, for the public's view and anybody that might be listening in. So the administration, Carol, Ken, and the district has been notified that Title I is going to be cut in the coming year. It's going to be cut, it has been cut in past years, and they're looking at a double-digit percentage cut. So instead of that salary being part of a Title I grant, it's now being pulled out of that. And Mr. Dykeman knows and questions this many times in our meetings, that grants come and go. Well, this is a grant that we're losing, or losing most of. So that's why the administration didn't put that grant in a parentheses and drag it out of the budget. So I'm comfortable and would think the committee should support, fixing the double listing portion of it, but certainly suggest that the district own that position now, because it used to be a Title I grant position. And if not, most of all of that salary will be coming and have to be fulfilled by the district. And I think Title I is an important part of our offerings to our students. And I think now is not the time to be cutting such a position this early on in the process. The other thing I think that is really, really important, and the committee really needs to keep this up front in the process, is we only get one shot at our budget, right? Every year we present our budget, and it is unlikely that we will ever go back to the towns saying, we just encumbered this new cost, whether it was a special ed student coming into town, whether it was something on the capital side that might have cost us $30,000. We usually encumber that in our budget and pay for it. I have to suggest strongly that those days are coming to an end, because our budget is being squeezed over and over again, where we can't encumber those costs year in and year out. So I would suggest to the administration, when those hefty bills come forward, that we start bubbling them up, not only to the school committee, but start trying to pass them along to the towns in their mid-year budget and have them pay for them, as opposed to us encumbering them in our once year budget. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea of where I feel. I think we should cut this budget by the $85,127. Ken has sent me a motion so that we could do that. And I think that's the responsible thing to do, right? And Dennis will get a portion of it, and Yarmouth will get a portion of it, but not the double listing of 170,000. Ken, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So
And if I
does that
may,
explain it? I hope I didn't confuse anybody. That's all.
Well, you confused me there at the end, Brian. I thought you were saying that you were in favor of keeping that money in the budget because we were going to need that. We're likely to need that position at some point during the year, and now you're
The
saying no,
Title
we
I
should cut it?
position, the Title I position, but I think the double listing has to be corrected.
What are you talking about?
So
Oh,
a
you,
position was
I
listed
see. You only
twice.
want that position listed once.
Correct.
Right. What happened was
Oh.
the person is listed twice.
Twice.
So it's usually one is the positive and the other one is in parentheses. So it's a negative, so it washes. But what happened is the parentheses were probably a typo, I would say. And so the parentheses.
Yes, my error.
There. So that's what the issue is. And so in theory, we added 2 salaries instead of just adding 1 salary.
I see, but it's not a wash. There's
No,
okay,
that's
nothing.
Go down by the 85, whatever the number was.
And it's certainly an error in our budget.
Right,
Okay.
my error.
Okay.
It's okay, Ken. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge budget. It's
right.
And Brian, you're saying that you think we should carry the salary reserve and the money for the HVAC.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And
Who
I
else
also think going forward, we should, if we have encumbered costs mid-year, that we should look at passing those on to our member towns.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions, comments? Phil? There you go.
I agree with the explanation was good from Brian, and also agree with his conclusion. I would endorse that philosophy because, again, we have no taxing power and we are ending up all too often capital items, unexpected expenses. We're delivering a service to the entire town, even though the children are our main client base. We're going to be facing, all of us, all schools and all towns, some really enormous pressures. As long as we lay it out and explain it and go, I'm all for putting it in there because most likely we're going to use it. And since we have a history of having to explain it doubly, not only is it double listening, it's a double explanation. So I thank you very much, Brian and Ken.
Anybody else? Joe?
Yeah, I also again agree with Brian. You know, this is going to be some trying times for a lot of different, well, everybody pretty much. And I think if we take that double out of there, keep that one in there, keep everything else in there, then go back to the towns and say, if we do have a huge expense, and say, okay, this is the expense we have to deal with, you know, and let them debate it and talk about it. And if they choose not to help us fund that, then at least we talked about it, and at least that's out there, and at least that's, you know, at least they know where we're coming from and why we always, you know, try to absorb that stuff. And we always say, hey, you know, we might have somebody come into the district and that's going to cost us a lot of money. So
Okay.
I agree with doing that.
All right. Jim, did you have a question or a comment?
No, I concur with Brian as well.
Okay.
And I do think it's imperative that we start talking about the town, talk to the towns about expenses that appear all of a sudden in March or, January, February, et cetera, and come up with some better solution than what we have right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the committee? All right, so I'm sure we need a motion to remove that line item and reduce the budget, or are we going to do that another night?
Brian has the motion. I believe Brian Carey.
Great. Brian, do you have that motion?
Brian's muted.
There we go. I'm trying to unmute him, but I can't. It keeps going back.
I think he has to do it himself.
All right, try it yourself, Brian. There we
How's
go.
that?
There you go.
All right, Jenny, you and I kept going back. I have to
Sorry.
switch screens real quick. It won't take me long. There we go. I move the school committee adopt an FY21 budget of $749,044 with a Dennis operating assessment of $17,386,060 and a debt service of $460,017 for a total Dennis assessment of $17,846,077 and a Yarmouth operating assessment of $35,561,820 and a debt service of $312,633 for a total Yarmouth assessment of $35,874,453.
All right, we have a motion
Second,
seconded by Jim. We'll do a roll call vote on this. Jim,
yes.
Phil. All right, Joe,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will send out the lowered assessment information to both towns tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
You need a signature, right, Ken?
Yes, I will give them the unofficial
Okay.
worksheet, but, right, I think they might have probably already printed their warrants, and then we can do the official sign-offs. Just
Okay.
wanted to give them the information in a kind of little formal way, if you will.
And,
Thank you.
And Jenny, one thing I'd like to really say that Ken did a great job in 2+ hours of having to have a mask on and listen to people from social distancing in a room and also educating the finance committee in a great manner. And he did an excellent job. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it sounds like it was a
It's a party.
challenging, yeah, a bit of a challenge. Okay. Thank you, Ken. Thank you,
Jenny,
Brian.
Thank you.
Just real quick, I believe we have our hearing for the town of Yarmouth on Tuesday. Is that correct?
Tuesday,
Okay.
tomorrow night.
All right, we have a pizza
yeah.
contract.
Yes, some of the real practical nitty gritty things, but yes, as you can see there, there's a proposal for the pizza contract from the one vendor who put in an offer, and it's the Lapoli Company's Sal's Production. Ms. Powers, our food service person, who's done phenomenal work with her team, you know, worked with, did the specs and all. And as you can see, it's 17-inch pizzas. It's $6 per pizza. That's the basis of the contract. Fewer slices at the high school because they have bigger portions, if you will. Pizza is very important in the food service program. No way to say it any other way. Fridays are super popular, the pizza day. And this is our one vendor, and we've worked with this vendor. So I don't feel we're in that situation where, oh, this is horrible. We only got information from one vendor. As you all imagine, it's interesting. I think in some contracts that we'll be bringing forward, there's people looking for work. And I think in other areas, we might find fewer people looking right now because either they're not operating at capacity or whatever. So anyway, I would can certainly answer any questions, but hope you support the bid for our pizza.
All right, does anyone want to make that motion?
So move
The motion as printed.
as printed.
Okay,
Second.
seconded. Any further discussion?
Ken, just a quick question. How many pizzas do we get in a year? Any idea? I'm just,
Rooney is on the call. Perhaps she can jump in. I'm surprising her by doing that, but perhaps
Where's the
Ms. Powers
samples?
could jump.
Rooney, how many pizzas do you think we sell?
That's a really good question. And something I would have to actually do some math on.
it's a lot, right?
No worries. It was just a,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah,
If you keep going, I'll jump back in after I pull out my calculator.
all right. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right. Unanimous on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then what do you have after that?
The second one is one of the few purchases I'm advocating that we make this spring. And it's being recommended because it directly impacts our food service program. As you saw in the memo, the food services vehicle. We're a frugal district and we use our vehicles till they no longer function. Then we try to work on some repairs and we always keep them safe. But at some point, vehicles come to the end of their life expectancy, if you will. Food service was using a van that was a hand-me-down from the maintenance department. And over the years, that was helpful. But food service needs their own vehicle to pick up some of the supplies that are delivered to one school, bring them around. The van we were using has engine work needs. The mileage is getting up there. The gasket around the windshields are gone. And so when it rains, there's about an inch of water that was getting into the vehicle. And all kinds of issues are flowing from that. It's time, I think. We have 2 other Ford Transit cargo vans in the district. They're very good on mileage. They're incredibly reliable. Maintenance has one. Technology has one. We've actually been borrowing one of those vehicles for some of the food service needs for the last month by the nature of the situation that there was a little bit less going on with maintenance in some respects and technology. But technology is gearing back up to do all that work they're going to be doing over the summer, transporting equipment. Most recently, for instance, technology needed their van today to get a donation from a local bank, which we'll bring to you next meeting, of computers and equipment and that kind of thing. Often with the vehicle, we talk about a multi-year purchase, but in this case, because Ms. Powers, our account with food services, she could put up to $10,000 toward the vehicle. The substitute savings we've had this spring would allow us to cover the remaining cost of the vehicle. And then we'd have the reliable vehicle. And why is it really important to have a reliable food service vehicle? Well, right now, when all this fresh produce comes in or materials come in, they need to be transported around the district. Secondly, on, let's see, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the person driving that van's has 58 stops for delivered meals. And it's not one meal at a stop, just to put that into context. Tuesday, Thursday, there's 32 stops. And people have been great about, oh, can we combine some stops and do things? So there's 2,700 meals being delivered a week. And having a dedicated person using the same vehicle, the food service vehicle, to deliver those, it's very efficient. And as you know, rarely do I bring vehicle purchases forward, but we're at that time. I think it's a unique time, and not to steal thunder, I think we've broken 112,000 meals now served. We have no illusions that this will be happening all summer. And so I think we can make the case, while we're trying to limit spending on non-PPE related purchases, this is something that's really important for us to do to maintain our food service program, delivering to our families, because I don't believe the pandemic's going to end in the near future, or at least the measures we're required to follow. So that's the case for a food service transit vehicle.
Thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions for Ken on the vehicle? All right, anyone want to make that motion as printed on the agenda?
So moved.
Second
Second.
by Jim, got it. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, I see unanimous vote on that. Thank you very much for
Thank
that
you very
research.
much. And Ms. Powers will no longer have to wear boots driving the vehicle.
That sounds like a good thing.
Oh, no, I'm making light of it, but the poor Rooney, the poor person she would go out and she'd have to wear gear and big boots because there'd be an inch of water. Enough said.
Gosh, all right.
The final bid this
that.
evening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't say enough about what food services have done. And the final proposal this evening, food services, the kitchen equipment repair service. Again, you'll notice This is a standard service we get every year or every several years. You want a reliable vendor who comes in, repairs your equipment, fair price, if you will, and is a great, reliable contractor who can come out day or night, especially in emergencies. We had one vendor respond. It's a company we've worked with in the past. We've been very pleased with their performance. Thankfully, we actually pleased they went for the contract again. And that's Harris Warren Commercial Kitchens. And they've been great to work with. They have a very reasonable price. And even though they are the one vendor, I think even if there were other vendors, they would have been the one we'd prefer for quality. So we can, again, can answer questions, but this is the routine repair at that $13,032, as well as a company that's reliable to come in to do emergency repairs.
All right. Anyone want to make the motion?
So moved, also with the fact that that's a local company, so we're doing business with a local company, and we're not paying travel time significantly for an off-Cape company.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah.
Moved by Brian, seconded by Phil. Any further discussion on that? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Unanimous vote on that. Thank you. And now we have a superintendent's report, please.
Okay, so I'm starting out with a little bit on food service. So Rooney, do you want to tell us about the pizzas? Before we do that? You got-
Okay, I just did some quick math. And roughly we serve about 9,000 pizzas over the course of the year.
Wow.
So,
It's a lot of pizza.
A good gig. So also just to finish off food service, Ken was alluding to this going through the summer. And in fact, Rooney had received an email not too long ago with the USDA granting us a waiver for our current meal services to be allowed to continue through August 31st. So obviously we're going to be continuing the drive-through, the Dolphin drive-through and with the parent pickup option and the delivery service as well. So hats off again to our food service team. Ken mentioned how many meals they've prepared, and it's been an amazing thing. And with the fresh produce that we've been able to get, and also just the plants for people to grow and so on and so forth. So it's been a pretty cool. In the midst of some kind of crazy times, some really good things are happening. So thank you, Rooney, and your team. Moving along to some other items, the Mass Department of Transportation runs a program called Safe Routes to School. Through this program, Emmy Small has been selected to receive an honorable mention award for the Southeast region for their bike rodeo. And while the bike rodeo won't be able to happen this year, they will be doing some virtual awards ceremony on June 8th at 10 in the morning, and they will be discussing and honoring Emmy Small School and their bike rodeo at that virtual awards ceremony. Later on in the agenda, on the consent agenda, you have a donation of gift cards from the Education Foundation. A lot of people have been giving us gift cards, typically in denominations of about $25, so that we can hand them out. And you know, $1,000 worth of $25 gift cards goes pretty far. So it's a pretty cool thing. A member of our community, Tom Kerr, spearheaded the gift card donation that you're going to accept on your consent agenda. However, that's not the whole story. So I wanted to tell you a few more things. Several months ago, Tom began hearing stories about food insecurity issues, as we all have been, not only here on the Cape, but throughout the region and the country. Because he serves on the Education Foundation with many other great people, he asked the organization for that $1,000 donation to help support food insecurity in the district's efforts to support students who may face this issue. And it was supported unanimously. So we thank the Education Foundation and Tom for his efforts, but there's a little more. From that idea, he hoped that he could expand the giving, and with an upcoming birthday, asked that monies be contributed to Cards for Kids project, he decided to call it. His wife sent out requests to people all over the country that they knew and had worked with over the years, and they all wanted to participate. So he was able to request that all monies be purchased through the Dennis-Yarmouth Ecumenical Council for the Prevention of Homelessness, which, if you know that group, when you buy the Stop and Shop gift cards from them, a portion of the cost, I believe Stop and Shop donates back to the Ecumenical Council to help with homelessness in our area. Additionally, he began asking some churches, starting with his own, to contribute to the project. And again, buying all of the cards through the Ecumenical Council. So it's really kind of a twofer, supporting homelessness and also supporting our kids and their families for being able to eat. So combined with the $1,000 donation and the birthday money from Tom, the grand total is $4,575. And all the cards have been turned over to the district for distribution as we see fit. So what we did was we put together an internal process so that we could equitably distribute those cards to our families that have students that need free and reduced lunch price lunches. Tom says he's been blessed to be able to do this project in these special times, but realizes that it needs to continue. He's heard from numerous people who would like to participate in the project, although he's not exactly clear the next direction, what the next direction might be, if at all. Maybe he could have a half birthday. Anyways, our sincere thanks to Tom Kerr, who spearheaded this whole thing. I just think it's amazing, and I wanted to make sure that the committee knew about it. So I'll move on to something a little more serious, which is the competency determination for high school students. As everyone here knows, our students have to pass the English, Math, and Science MCAS in order to receive a diploma. I think I mentioned last month that the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education voted to temporarily modify the competency determination requirement for our high school seniors only during the COVID-19 emergency. Under this change, seniors who have not passed one or more of the MCAS tests will be able to earn a competency determination if they completed a relevant high school course connected to the same content. This is not a local decision. Schools have to submit their application, if you will, to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for approval. So there's it's important that people realize that this isn't just being handed out, that there's real important criteria for this. So another change that's had to be made is for the classes of 2021, 2022, and 2023, only in the area of the science MCAS. If you think about how kids take the MCAS, students can take a science MCAS test in either biology, chemistry, physics, or technology and engineering during their high school career. And most students take one of those courses at the beginning of their career and tend to pass the test in 9th or 10th grade. And we all know that just because you took physics doesn't mean that you could pass a biology test. So there's an impact on our students going forward in terms of what classes they would take. Let's say, for example, they took biology this year and we're 10th graders, and they were scheduled to take a chemistry test next year, and they would take the biology MCAS this year. At the end of next school year, which is, the tests are usually held in June, would they remember enough of the biology to really successfully pass the test? And so with that in mind, you know, the science tests are really considered end of course tests. And so with that in mind, the the commissioner brought it to the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, and they waived the MCAS requirement for the science test only, but it's going to be in the same way. They're going to have approval of the coursework that they took, that it aligns well and that they passed it. Otherwise, they will still have to take a makeup test at another point. So there's real criteria for this. But beginning with our students who are currently in 8th grade, who will be the class of 2024, entering 9th grade in the fall, they will be expected to take a science MCAS sometime in the future, and probably their 8th or 9th grade year. We've all been thinking a lot about graduation, especially in the Carey household, I'm sure. I think Paul sent out a parent communication today. Graduation will now be on July 25th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And the date has been selected so that we can have our outdoor graduation on the football field, which is what the majority of our parents and students, we believe, wanted. There will have to be some rain dates because there will be certain amount of still rules around social distancing and so on and so forth. So the rain dates will just be the next 2 days. Hopefully we don't get a 3-day rain streak, but it'll be July 26th and July 27th. There are, part of the reason that we selected that, originally we had thought that we would be able to do our outdoor graduation on July 18th, but ultimately it seemed that July 19th was the magic number. And we had hoped to use the week running up to July 18th to do a certain amount of senior activities. And in an effort to make sure that we can still do those things, we pushed it back one more week. We feel very strongly that we want to give this class a send-off that is worthy of them. I will say that thanks to Shepley Wood Products, this Thursday they're doing a flyover across the Cape with a banner for all the 2020 graduates across the Cape, and they should be over DY around 12:45. So I think there's a little something being planned to hopefully allow our students to maybe gather in their cars at the high school that day. But if I don't know for sure if Paul's gotten that information out, so it's in the planning stages. But we think there's some really kind of fun and good things that will be coming up in the next few weeks that people will hear about in anticipation of graduation. This week, we had hoped to hear early this week about summer school, extended school year services for our special education students and summer care. I do have a call with the commissioner tomorrow, so we may hear on that call something about that. He promised us by mid-June we would be getting some information about opening school in the fall. And one of the things that we want to do is survey our parents about the remote learning that has taken place and our teachers. And we would like to also maybe ask them some questions about next year in our surveys, because we really need to hear from our families and our teachers about all the things that they think can go well and things that didn't. The commissioner, I think I may have mentioned this before, but the commissioner did tell us not to do too much planning other than perhaps buying some PPE, because he said that probably 85% of what they will come out with at the state level, we will be required to follow. So we're just waiting and thinking about a lot of different possibilities, but we don't have anything else yet. The other thing is that the Cape and Islands superintendents will be in a meeting on Wednesday, I think. No, tomorrow at 12:30 with the education committee for the, our state education committee at the State House. I guess they want to hear from the various constituents about what we need for the upcoming school year. So our state budget still is not resolved. And so we've got to wait a little bit longer for that. So that's all I have for tonight.
All right, let's see. Consent agenda. We have minutes and the acceptance of the gift cards with our thanks to Mr. Kerr and all his friends and family, everyone who donated to that cause. So anyone want to move the consent agenda?
Move the consent agenda with sincere thanks.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous vote on that. Thank you. Public comment period. If you would like to address the committee, please turn on your video if possible. Signal me by waving or holding up your hand, and I will recognize you, and then you will have 3 minutes to address the committee. We'll do our best to answer questions as we can. If we can't answer questions right now on the call, it'll be directed to the appropriate person. So would anyone like to address the committee, please? I don't see any hands. Does anybody?
I don't see anybody.
Okay,
Jenny, can I make a quick comment?
sure.
One, I had some communication with Tim Whalen today, and I told him we had a quick meeting or a meeting this evening. He wanted to pass along his warm regards and that he's still working for us out in the district. And probably on a far more serious note, I just think it's important that a lot of families were very scared the other night when we all heard the helicopters and parents with 15-year-olds and family friends were, turns out it wasn't necessarily a DY student, but at the same time, I think a lot of families are thinking about whether they should let their kids jump off bridges anymore. So, not that we haven't done it in our household, but we were doing a roll call vote, calling around, where is everybody? And they were, on their way home, but it was very scary. So I think it's important that we kind of recognize that. So
Absolutely. It's really a terrible loss. And I feel for, all the kids who were there with him and everyone's family. It was definitely an interesting conversation to have with my 10-year-old, about, being out with friends and things like that. I mean, a lot of kids jump off that bridge, but
I mean,
very difficult for everybody.
Just from my standpoint, in my 30 years of being in the business that I'm in, I've seen 3 kids die jumping off that bridge.
Wow.
Yeah. So, not to say I did it when I was a kid, but hey, it's just something to think about, and it's a very scary thing to be part of when you're a young child like that. It was a tough night.
Absolutely.
So, and just to share, and I hope Joe's not mad at me, but Joe was on the water looking for him.
Oh, I wondered. Sorry, Joe.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to make the motion to move us into executive session?
I'll keep my mic live and try to get there. How's that?
All right, let's see what you can do.
The Dennis-Yarmouth Regional School Committee will enter into executive session not to return to public session for the purpose of discussing strategies with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effects on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares DY Regional School AA Remote Learning MOA.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, let's do a roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
Phil? Yes. Joe?
Yes.
Andrea? Brian?
Yes.
I'm a yes. So Carol is going to remove us to another room. We'll end the recording and the live streaming. For any members of the public who are on at this point, we will not be returning to public session. So this is essentially the end of the public meeting for tonight. And now we'll all just wait to be moved. Carol, you can do that, right?
Yep, I'm doing it
Okay.
now.
Excellent.
I believe it's there and
I see a few